This is Stuff and Things. First of the year. Sometime around the third week of January. Now some good news. The young woman that was on who was battling with their version out in the Midwest of Child Protective Services, whatever it is, the Division of Child and Family Services, DCFS, I get them mixed up, was reunited with her oldest son. The son who is 16, bulletproof, nothing can hurt me, I'm tough, finally couldn't take it anymore and kind of ran away, told his mother what had been happening, so she filed for an order of protection, showed that there was certainly a propensity, an inclination, if you will, for some violence in the home with her soon-to-be ex-husband. And the powers that be saw the honesty in it and the merit of perhaps, well, let's remove the older son from the home, and he's now with Amy. So there's more battles to be fought. Her youngest son, Noah, who had been removed from her in, hours after she delivered him, is still back there, but at least there's been some breaks in this. And with all the giants she has to fight, this certainly was good news, and I wanted to pass that along. She'll come on later on. But again, this will have twists and turns and ups and downs, and she understands that. But one of the things that she had always prayed for was that she could be reunited if she could only even spend one night with her sons. Well, half of that came true, and perhaps all of it will. So that's good news, Jade. All right. I kind of hinted at this when we did the live show Untamed Dimensions, and I wrote a little bit of what's going on in my head in the chat room. That's frightening. Right after, and I want to talk more about it now, because the matrix that we all think we know, I think, is even bigger than we think. In fact, I'm positive it's bigger than we think. And the way people continue to behave, their attitudes, their thoughts about the future may be impacted by the fact that they either don't want to know how really massive and all-encompassing the matrix is, or that even if they understand it, they still would rather just deal with hopes and wishes. And even the term democracy, which we were all told was so great, in essence really isn't. I mean, you know the story about, well, not to go through the whole thing, but if you take a look and survey history, nothing lasts all that long. And we chalk that up to kind of like, well, that's the shelf life of any government. It just is that way. And while that may be true, it shouldn't have to be. Because at the same time, people are talking about, well, there'll come a time when we'll really get it together and we'll have this like wonderful government on earth and everything will be great because human beings are rising to the occasion and they're becoming more, kinder, gentler, more evolved, more compassionate. Really? My point is that it's a history of failed experiments. And it continues to be such, and it will always be such. I mean, to think otherwise is insanity. Everybody's thinking, we'll just come upon that one time, we'll just come. It isn't going to happen, folks. Because as many of you out there that are good people, there's 10 to 100 times more that aren't. And there happens to be one entity on this planet that is very, very not nice. And that thing runs the show. And it's never going to be any different. And it never has been in the past. There's been nothing that lasts. There's nothing that's ever been of eternal goodness or even for a protracted period of time. I mean, don't get mad at me. Go take a look in history books. Sooner or later, it doesn't go too far and you get a flat tire and that's it. So to extrapolate and say in the future, well, we're going to get, it's like, how many of you think that one day Lucy really won't remove the football and Charlie Brown won't kick and miss it and fall on his melon head? What don't you get? That's what Lucy's about. And that's what Charles is about. That's her nature, to deceive Charles. And Charles's nature is to be deceived. And so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes. And here we are again. This is our time on earth. We think we're different. We think we're better. Guess what? We're not. And the ones coming after us aren't going to be any better either. And that's been the lot of this world forever. Get mad at me, fine. But just show me someplace in the past where something lasted for like over a millennium. And don't tell me about BC. I mean, nobody knows what happened back then. Stop. At any rate. But I took a look at democracy, and I have to laugh because we're supposed to hold that to our breast as like some kind of great form of government, and it's another joke. And we look to none other than the statist and elitist Plato to tell us exactly where democracy's at. And he said eventually, as the third worst form of government, it'll descend into tyranny. And some of the neat things he says about democracy are that, observe too, he states, and this is in the Republic, of course. I guess it's Canto 4 or something like that? I don't know. It says, observe too how grandly democracy sets her foot upon all our fine theories of education, how little she cares for the training of her statesmen. The only qualification which she demands is the profession of patriotism. Now remember that, because like I say, patriotism sucks. I don't like patriotism. I don't care about patriotism. If you're patriotic, you're an idiot. You were brought up or born into and brought up into this plantation corporation, and that's all it is. Patriotism, what am I supposed to do? Oh, we're supposed to fight people because somebody might come in here and make it worse? Well, I guess we went off and fought people so they wouldn't come in here, and it's still getting worse. And then finally it says, such is democracy, a pleasing, lawless, various sort of government distributing equality to equals and unequals alike. Oh, no, not that. And it goes on and on. You can read about this to your heart's content. All right, what stupid section is this thing in? I mean, I don't like Plato either. Plato would not want to eat at your table in the cafeteria. You know what I mean? He wouldn't want to even be anywhere near you in the cafeteria. Yeah, it's book 4. Book 4 of the Republic. Go check out what he says about all those forms of government. They all suck. And he's right. The only one that should happen is an aristocracy, which we kind of have anyway. But no matter what form of government you have, and even as we're going to totalitarianism, however you want to call it, you want to call it corporate fascism? Okay, I'm fine with that. You want to call it communism? Yeah, that's good too. Whatever you want to call it. All right, it's total control, and there will always be an oligarchy that runs the thing. No matter how egalitarian it's supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. For all the platitudes and crap said about communism, whatever brand you want to, Marxism, Mao, whatever you want to call it, it's just a bunch of crap and a bunch of labels, man. The point of the matter is, no matter how much it's supposed to be by the people, it's not. It's by an oligarchy. Now, what's funny is what the democracy is really good for, and that is nothing. Good Lord. Wasn't it? Who was that? Edward Stone? What is it good for? All right. You know what democracy is? One of my musings driving in the pickup truck to a place where we can go biking, where we can see as few people as possible. And at this point, let me just share this with you. We are now about to see the second clutch of ospreys being born in a nest on one of the uprights which support power lines. And so we ride the power lines and get our dose of radiation. And we saw a clutch of ospreys, I guess a year or so ago, maybe 9 months. And, and they go off on their way. And then some buzzards, vultures you may call them, came in and they copped the place for a while and had a clutch. They got to breathe too. And now we saw Mama Osprey is starting to refurbish the place since the vultures left. Probably left tacks in the wall or holes and didn't patch things. And it was so cool to watch her pull up some, whatever, Spanish moss or whatever, and just kind of, effortlessly just slide up to the top of the tower and start feather bedding it. That's beautiful. We just sat there. It was like, whoa. That may be freedom, but that for later. So as we were tooling, I take the back road. Everybody knows. Well, I mean, not everybody knows this, but Jeff Long knows this, and Gordon Comstock knows this. If I can avoid pavement, I will. I'll take the least populated place. I don't care how far I got to drive. I just stay away as much as possible from trying to, in driving in traffic that reminds me of Bergen County, New Jersey, which is what this place has become. And some will say, well, it's guys like you that made it happen. You all came down here. I'm like, well, you're right. Y'all wants to get out of here, okay? And you can have this crap because long after I'm gone, you're going to be dealing with this jazz. How to Californicate Florida. So I was saying, you know what democracy is? Democracy is propagandizing hundreds of millions of people throughout decades and now over 2 centuries to believe something that isn't real. And the masses run with that. And when somebody turns around and says something that counters that, they want to kill them. Like enemy of the people. I always get mixed up. Is it enemy of the people, enemy of the state? Whatever one Ibsen wrote. But they're both good. Kafka wrote the other one. But that's democracy. Democracy is watching people who care not to think and just take it. Just absorb all this crap. That's democracy. I don't think I make too much of this because I think it's a really unbelievable sociological event. I've talked to you about people in traffic now. Like somehow, some way, all of a sudden, people decided not to use blinkers, and they choose not to get over to the most right-hand lane when they're going to exit that way. They wait until the last minute and just say like, "Well, screw me, all y'all, I'm coming across." And I watch this stuff. Sometimes it's well. And here's another thing. You're driving 2 tons of hurtling metal and other things, and you think that might be your responsibility enough. Oh, no, that's right. You got to have your cell phone out. You don't know what to do if you're not talking on it, and maybe you got other something going on too. You didn't strap in your child in the back, and you got a drink of water. You need that, and and I'm saying democracy is, what we got 300 million people in this country. How many of these people have just decided to do this, a very risky and potentially fatal, certainly injurious behavior, and they just did it? I mean, what I find fascinating about this is that there were no, PSAs about, please, when you drive, don't use your directional. And, when all ever possible, go to the furthest hand lane that you need to be in, or from the one you need to be in, to exit. And then just yank that wheel to the right, and whatever happens, happens. And in the meantime, make sure you get that text through, or make sure that at least you continue a causal conversation with the other person to whom you're speaking through the cell phone. Now, nobody was told to do that. And I just watched it happen. And I just find it, sadly, but extremely interesting that how did these people all decide to assume this behavior without being promoted on TV? They just did this, and it's a really bad idea. And now to the point where, and this is what happens. Now this isn't even a Hegelian dialectic in a sense. This is people just not taking care and prioritizing of what is the most important and perhaps dangerous activity that they'll undertake in a day, and certainly for most of them in their life. It's called driving. And that's enough. No, let's just raise the stakes and do all this other crap. I mean, how do you get in a car and tell yourself this is okay? I'm going to take a wild guess. The biggest excuse will be, well, it won't happen to me because I'm too hip. My reflexes are good. Yeah. I like what one guy said. I forget. It was a book on motorcycling. It wasn't Zen in the Art of, or Motorcycles in the Art of Zen. It wasn't that, whatever the hell that was. No, it was just somebody saying it was a really good, very logical, pragmatic book on riding motorcycles and trying to optimize your chances for not getting into an accident or if you have to get in one, to preserve your life and your skin. And what the individual said was, you can have great reflexes, but if you make the wrong choice, it doesn't matter. You just turn to red grease a lot quicker. And I watched this, and I said to Lady Viz, that's democracy. That's a mob who just doesn't think. They all just start to do the little chimpanzee aping. Well, he did it, so I'll do it. And that's what we got. That's democracy. That's democracy. Not even propagandizing to do it. And some monkey does it somewhere, and then somebody else imitates that, and the third does that, and before you know, it's all over the country. And everybody's written to me, from all parts of the contiguous 48 states. And they said the same thing. It's like, what the hell is with this? And none of us can figure it out how it happened. It just did. That's democracy. That's like when anything bad enters into the population, democracy spreads it. Because the main thing about democracy is this. You've got the numbers, so we just don't want you to think. So there you go. So that's democracy, and you can have it. And there is no good form of government because it's run by human beings. So what do we do then? Well, I don't know what to tell you. Try to coexist the best you can. But, what I'm getting into now, with these people that are on these other show hosts and all that stuff, talking tough, and like I said, just, once again, show me how you're going to do it. Now, it was over a year ago that somebody that was close to a number of us got all ticked off at me for being, here's the point, and this was, like I said, it was about a year ago. And I was told, you don't believe that there's free energy and all. No, I believe there's free energy. I absolutely do. I think it's a great idea. But we're not going to get our hands on it because it is not wished by the elites to have that happen. That's all I'm saying. So don't get in my ass that, like, I don't think it's true and I don't want it. Of course I want it. If I could run the car on soap water, I'd do it. What do I care? I'm not wedded to petroleum. But there's certain things you don't get your hands on, and there's a reason for it, and we haven't had it now. We're not going to have it. Beat your head against the sky, man. Not my fault. I'm just telling you. But don't misinterpret the fact that I think it's a great idea. But you see, this is what I'm telling you. I went through this crap 40 years ago. Sold out, solar power, blah, blah, blah. I'm with it, let the warm power of the sun, all this stuff, right? No nukes, the whole 9 yards. And I just watched it. It came and it went. And most of the people that were the biggest mouths that were up there pumping their fist about it are probably working for companies that deal with nuclear energy products. It's like Jerry Rubin, big yippee, right? And he winds up, being a stockbroker in Chicago. Go away. How do you turn a hippie into a capitalist? Buy his book. So, I just saw it, man. I'm sorry, but I've seen the cycles time and time again. You go back into history and you find out exactly what didn't happen back then either. Forget the books that you get between, kindergarten and grade 12 in grammar school, in the public school system or elsewhere. It doesn't matter. Come on, let's face it. Parochial books are no better either. If you're in Christian school, even the Beaker books, they tell you the same stuff. Come on. Well, God loved this country. No, God just, He loves people, countries, something He didn't get into since the time when He was asked not to. That's the short version. So, I've seen it. And it's another one. It's like, how many March of Dimes, telethons you're going to have, how many marches and walks and bicycle runs and all this stuff, and this is for this, and the NFL and the Major League Baseball wears pink one day, and how many decades have gone by and there's no progress? So what are you doing with the money? The point is, you're not going to get a cure for cancer, which there definitely is. You're not going to get it, just like free energy. Does that mean I like cancer? No. And I understand the people who do that, and I'm not mocking them. But sooner or later, you got to stand back and say, hey, look, what is going on? If the government has all these billions, and where do they get their money from, by the way? They've got her for killing people and making bombs and all this other crap, which we have to do to maintain the lifestyle we have, which means that you can still have cancer and not be cured for it. I'm freaking not believing that 1 out of 4 men are going to get stricken with cancer. 1 out of 5 women will. 1 out of 2 men will die. 1 out of 3 women will die. Are you serious? The 21st century? And we can't figure out what to do with this virus? So, I mean, don't get mad at me. I'm just telling you what's reality. I can't deal with what should be. I can't deal with what could have been. I don't feed the bulldog. It doesn't matter. Some of you have got like 20 or 30 decades to live to reach where I am, and you get all the time in the world, or so you think. It's like Bonnie Raitt said, like it's awful precious when there's less of it to waste. I mean, I know that certain things aren't going to happen. I know there's certain things that I'm not ever going to do. And I know now I'm coming into a realm, as I will with every decade I live, if I live any further than the 60s, where a lot of things I don't want to have happen are more likely to occur. That's it. That's a cycle of life. Happens to everybody. Should I get pissed about it? Well, okay, get in line. Best line I ever heard was Groucho Marx being asked about death. He says, I don't believe in it. It's already been done. There you go. So, I mean, you look at this, it's the futility of decades and centuries of this kind of stuff. And no one ever, not no one. How many people get hip? And if you get hip, what do you do? I mean, to me, it's easy now. I mean, I'm more likely to meet my end than I am to worry about the New World Order coming down with the whole 9 yards and, missiles and the whole good stuff, So it's a race to who's going to get me first. So I'm all right. For the young people, I feel badly because you think, first of all, you think you're going to beat it, but you're not. Because you keep saying, well. What are you doing? Well, I'm listening. Okay. What else you doing? And who's at my door? It's Lady Viz. And she was bearing gifts. This is good. I'm branching out into Stratomatic football now. But getting back to the point that nobody's getting anything done. Well, why don't you? Well, you know what? I tried. And let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, when I got into this stuff, it was because I heard Alex Jones and GCN on the stations eventually where I would broadcast. And he demand, right? So I tried to email him a couple of times and not a thing back. Nothing. And I wasn't the only one. Nobody else ever got anything back from him. It's like all of a sudden you realize Alex doesn't like to play nice with other children. Alex wants to be the king. Okay, fine. And that's the way it went. And to this day, that's the way it went. He is literally the 700-pound gorilla in the show. But you see, here is also the problem. And this is what I had said. When Andy Sr. posted that 3.5-minute crying jag from Alex Jones, and here's the hypocrisy. Jones will tell everybody during the show that he's got the NWO on the run. And then in this thing, he's crying and wondering where all the men are to help defeat this evil. But you told me you had the NWO on the run. Now we're not defeating the evil. You can't have it both ways. Because the guy is a shyster. Whatever he started off to be or tried to be at the beginning, whatever that was, he is now a shyster. And he's probably the one person who bears, if not the sole responsibility, the greatest responsibility for making sure that this patriot movement went nowhere. Because he was in a position, if he wanted to be king, and he is king, that he could have gotten things done. And my example was, how long did it take the Tea Party to get up and running? Well, they had financial backing. I know that. So does he. A money bomb for $800, $800,000. I don't know how he made out. I don't care. That money isn't coming from, little blue-haired ladies in West Virginia in the hills sending him money for whatever videos or something like that. Occupy Wall Street. Well, they got money. Well, okay, fine. But how much do you really need? Put up websites, got things together, organize it, bang, there they are, in a very short period of time. 20 years in the Patriot movement, however long that blowhard has been on radio or, cable TV in Austin or whatever. Nothing. Because it's all his. He makes the money because he's going to expand his information dissemination system. But it's not working. And if he had the money, why not go ahead and start a movement with websites and local groups and do exactly what Occupy Wall Street is doing and what the Tea Party has done and is doing? I don't care. I mean, I don't like either one of them, but the thing is, how did that not happen in the Patriot group? And I blame it right on him. Because he's the one that was in a position to get this going, and he chose to stone everybody else and just, oh, it's mine. Mine. Like McMurphy in Cuckoo's Nest. Ooh, ooh. And if anything, that was probably his purpose, was to get everybody in there and then go nowhere with them, and nobody's going anywhere. And it's been about, well, we're sharing information and people learn. It doesn't count. It isn't doing anything. Like I said, go to a supermarket. Walk up and down the aisles and say, have you ever heard of Alex Jones? No. It isn't so much even beating the NWO. It's that you can't beat the critical mass that's created by 300 million people who don't know. Or if they do, they don't care. Or they're afraid. Before you even have to get to the New World Order, you're going to crawl over all them. And you can't do it. You can't do it. It's like trying to bang on a tank with a tack hammer. Yeah, bang it. You'll make a little dent. Damn it, I made a little dent, didn't I? Well, great, that's the way you want to live your life, fine. That's what it's all about, definitely. And Jones may have been exactly what he is, and that is somebody who kept everybody in stasis. So however many people are out there who are in the Patriot Idiot group or alternative group or whatever, they're just sitting there by the computers and radios and they're listening. And I won't beat it to death, but that's the point, okay? It's still happening. And every time I get snapped on about, well, free energy, and this is a year which I would like to ask the other person, hey, how's it going with the free energy? Well, okay, fine. I'll check in next year. Maybe things will be better. Now, you can do some of this stuff on your own, and that's what I would suggest. The other thing is this notion that you can vote in good government, which you're not going to do. Government, regardless of what party they stuff in there, is bad. Government is very, very bad. Government is not going to be nice to you for the rest of our lives. They fake it, but they're not good. And everybody's whacking out now about this bit about taking pensions and now checking the safety deposit boxes in banks. You see, when we talked about buying silver and gold, we're like, well, maybe we should put it in the bank. I'm like, no. Because if you don't have it in your hands, you don't have it in your hands. Why in the world would we take the money out of the 401k plans and the mutual funds and then go ahead and buy silver and then stick it in the bank? Is it in our hands? No. Well, nothing will happen in the bank. No. Famous words, nothing will happen, ... Okay, right then and there, stop. The inner sanctum door is opened. So that's how it goes. So they are checking safety deposit boxes, and you better not have a lot of cash in there because they're going to want to know why it's in the safety deposit boxes and it's not in the bank, in the instruments of deposit and such in the bank. And my only point is what do you expect to happen from here on in? That the government is not going to do this. They're going to get nice. They'll have maybe a week or two or a jubilee when they'll be nice to everybody. Ain't going to happen, man. Not going to happen. It's not going to be good, and it has been for some time, but it's now, they don't even try to fake it. And I sit there and I have to watch now for God knows how long, this stuff with the candidates getting up there, and they talk about everything that doesn't matter, because they're not going to do anything. And the real things that matter, like the non-sexy stuff about trying to keep your pension or your savings and such, they don't talk about. All of a sudden everybody went crazy with the politicians. Well, what happened to the jobs? Well, where were you for the last, 30 years? And isn't it interesting that you don't even talk about the fact that the corporations, well, here's how they get around it. They don't whack the corporations for sending jobs abroad. They just say, well, the small business sector is the best place to go. Why don't you turn around and tell those corporations they are persons, as we are in the eyes of the corporation? You start here, the jobs are staying here. That's the way it goes. Well, you can't do that. It has to be laissez-faire. Why the hell not? I don't care what the hell you're supposed to be. And all these idiots that talk about, the London School of Economics and the Keynesian economics. Look, man, that's all for academia. That sounds great. That's for assholes to get on and ad nauseum yak about this stuff on all these shows that don't matter, where people sitting there and just thinking these people are really together because they talk like they are. They drop names. They talk about systems. And it's all bullshit. But they look like they know what they're doing, so I better listen to this so I can talk around the water cooler about it. That's what we got. We got a nation of Charlie Tunas. They don't have good taste. They just want to make it look like they have good taste. And they're idiots. They'll fall for a nice package. They'll fall for anybody who can talk polysyllabics for a minute straight. And they'll just sit there and go, boy, that's the answer. That's it right there. We better listen to that person. And you're so, so gullible, you idiots. There was a time when I used to not understand some of the verbiage that was spouted by Vidal and Mailer and Buckley. And then I made it my business to learn all that. And then I realized it doesn't mean anything. It's just another type of junkies, ESE. Just another form of blah, blah, blah to keep all the little peasants, listening rapt. Like, boy, you really know what you're talking about because I don't understand all these words. But you know what they mean. It's so sad. And I remember Keith Jennison, God bless that man, the lion of the man that he was. He and Steinbeck. You know what it is? It's like you communicate. The purpose is to be understood, not to wow people and to give them the Shazam language and use all these Baroque words. It's to be understood. And, of course, that isn't the case in the game that they play, and therefore everybody acts as if they do understand. And when I would look at these blogs, where people are going back and forth, well, clearly the Austrian School of Economics, hey, shut the fuck up. You know what it's all about? Here's the deal, okay? They give you that stuff in school, so you stay in those little traps. And you talk about everything in terms of that. In essence, it's been a planned economy. Get over it. It's been a planned economy forever in this country, ever. And got more embarrassingly overt since 73, and nobody still gets it. They still talk about, the School of Economics, and all the academicians get real upset, they get hard on about it. They get wet when they talk about that kind of stuff. And it's all bullshit. When I endeavored to understand it, I understood it, and I realized it's just another bag of shit. It's just another jargon, like the lawyers got their thing, financial people got their thing, sports has got their thing. Just be understood, but that's not the point. And so it goes. I got all these newsletters sent from people who no longer send me these newsletters about Martin Armstrong or this person or that person and stuff. And it was like some of it was good stuff. But Martin Armstrong, thinks that history is real as it is in the textbooks, and we're going to go back to some. I don't need to I don't want to hear anything from you if you don't get it. I can take what I can here, but if you don't understand that something's going on here that's not going to go back to the way it was, then why am I bothering? And that's with most of the stuff that people send me. Oh, listen to this. Oh, read this. And I'm like, look at it, and I reject it because basically they don't get it. What do you want me to take from this? And someone sent me an email, and it stated about Bednarik saying, well, the Constitution could have worked if they, but before I ever got a chance to respond, in the email, the person said, yeah, I know, and it's true. I don't care. It doesn't matter what Bednarik says. The thing is, it didn't work. It wasn't supposed to work, so let's not pretend that it could have worked. And here's where I'm also going to go about the way things are. Another show host whom I respect, because it is supposed to be the indirect object, not direct object of the verb. Respect. Was talking about something, and I wrote, I'm going, I understand, what you're saying, but who thinks here that taxes were ever supposed to meant to be fair? Don't you understand? It's a hammer that's used by governments and ruling bodies, and it always, always tilts toward being burdensome. That's what it's about. There didn't have to be any. The reason why you have taxes is not good. So they're not going to be fair. The people who administer the government are not going to be fair. So what is the problem here? Don't you understand that that's what it was meant for? It isn't like taxation, like a gun is like a thing that could be used for good and evil. No, it was meant to be bad. That's why it's there. That's why they call it taxes. Like, are you taxed? And this is actually my point about even those of us who get it. There's something still left in there, like a virus in a computer, that's preventing the apparatus from functioning the way it should. There's something in all of us that's still left in there that we haven't routed out, so that it prevents us really from understanding the whole picture. You don't understand that government was bad from day one. It was just, it's the only thing we have. Now, in the United States, as a whole, we've had it better than a lot of other countries. That's changed. And it's going to continue to change. But for a lot of people in the United States, there was a whole bunch of losers. There's a whole lot of people who got crushed. See, my point is, whenever you listen to stuff, it's like, we have to go back to where? We have to get this back from when? And here's my point. Listen to all this rhetoric. It refers to a time that was better than now, and there was no time that was better than now. No time necessarily is any better than others. All right, in the sense of, are some worse than others? Yes. So then you can say, this is better than that. All right, fine. But it always refers back or to something that is illusory. And if you go back in time, now Gordon Comstock found this out when he went and he read about Tammany Hall. You think corruption in politics is great now? You should have seen it back then. Yes, people in cemeteries who reside there permanently got out early and voted often. People got beat up. It was that way in the 1840s, in the 1820s. It's always been nasty. But it gets all glossed over, or at least maybe once in a while you get a footnote to a time that wasn't too good. But you see what's happening? All of us refer back to another time when. But that time never existed. And you can accuse me, you're the one that goes back in time and likes to talk. You're absolutely right. I go back to a time between 11 and 15 where, I would have stayed forever. And some of you said, you've achieved that. To me, it's my Prozac. It's my not having to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist. It's my firewall against going crazy. And as I've said, I realize at that time is far more hallmarked, foggy edges around the window panes than it ever was. But there was some good stuff. And I'll deal with that another time. But yes, you're right. But I know that I want it to be that way. It necessarily isn't the reality. And folks just so glibly now, and they've done this throughout time, and they'll continue to do it about, we have to get back to, we have to do that. Yes, this was the time. And no, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. It never existed. It's an elusive thing. It's a gossamer. It's like fog. You can't grab it because it doesn't exist. And neither does freedom. And there I said it. I started thinking about all this stuff brought on by watching another individual's videos. And it just made me think. There's no blame or there's no thanks, I guess. I don't know. There's no gratitude. I mean, it just was. But whatever it was, it just got me thinking at this part of my life, and I went, holy mackerel, wait a minute. There's no such thing as freedom. There isn't. Yeah, well, no, think about it. Freedom compared to what? What are you free to do if you can't pay your way through? Well, I own my own property. I paid off the mortgage. Well, what happens if you fall behind in your property taxes? Goodbye. You don't own jack. You have as much freedom as your money can buy. And that's it. Freedom is a concept. It, too, is illusory. We were born into slavery. Why? Because the bodies we were born into... I got to find this clip. I got to play it. It's from Sam Kinison. I'll go get it. When Kinison goes ape about, I was a spirit until you guys fucked and made and brought me into the world. But I mean, it's the truth. You know, your spirit goes on forever. It will go on to eternity. Whether you believe in God or not, I'm telling you right now, your spirit will go on for eternity. It will not be destroyed. But when you are born, you're trapped within a body that's going to decay. Some tragically earlier than others. Some not at all non-functional and were wiped out by a murderer, a drunk driver, an accident. So you don't have freedom from the day you come sliding down the canal. All right, so what's the big deal? We can live with that. We have to. Okay. But while you're on this earth, you're told about freedom. You get stuff that tells you that you're free, but you're not. There's a bound to whatever you can do, and that leash is determined by, most often, what kind of assets you have, or where you were born, or what epoch you were born into. I'm not complaining. I had it pretty good. I had it very good. But I see now at the end of my life, I'm watching a time when now people have no idea in the United States what's going to happen here. And in some emails I wrote, it's going to be, when the hard rain falls, and it is going to fall here, there's going to be a whole 100 millions of people walking around with soot-stained faces, not believing we just got our asses fully kicked. Now what? And that's the way it is. Just the way it is. Sorry. And in the meantime, we watch these idiots who are politicians, and they talk about stuff that doesn't matter. And they say something, it is the most ridiculous statement sometimes, but the people just out there in the audience just waving back and forth like some sea-blown punks, or rivergrass. And the person just says something, and they go, yay! And it's like, what are you talking about? Well, I'm going to do this. Of course you're not going to do this. Or I'm going to do that. Of course you're not going to do that. And we all know it. It's just like some stupid tribal ritual we go through when any kind of common sense, any sense of history, just goes out the window. And I watch these people say they're not going to do anything. And this is really great. Apparently, when we did the show Untamed Dimensions, and we cut up a lot, and it was good. It's what we meant it to do. I didn't realize there was a chat room going on at the time because I hate chat rooms. When I checked in later, someone had said to me, some person was in here and got ticked off that you made fun of Newt Gingrich's wife's hair. And I'm like, are you serious? Let me explain something. Politicians are worse than the real handlers in this country. The handlers don't want any notoriety. People like Rockefeller and the other ones, robber barons who started tax-exempt foundations, are internationalists and Satanists right to the sole of their feet. They put politicians out there to act like they really do things. So first of all, politicians are liars, they're posers, they're actors, they're phonies. And they would rather see you paralyzed than to have to deal with you. Do you know how much it's bothering Gingrich and Mitt Romney and the rest of these people that have to go through restaurants and diners in the morning, shaking hands with, Charlie Arbuckle, oh, great to see you. Yeah, all right, yeah, go fucking die. Why don't you? And they go on to someone else. I mean, are you serious? Well, I got your vote, don't I? It's like, yeah, well, you got my ass, don't you? And we go through this ridiculous routine all the time. So my point to you is that these people who reside in the District of Columbia and do business there, supposedly are advocates, are anything but. They're liars, they're sycophants, they're flatterers. Most of all of them have some kind of sexual perversion that's got them blackmailed to do anything that they're told to do, and if they don't, then something happens. And you're going to worry about what I said about Newt Gingrich's slut wife's hair? I mean, can we have a little reality here? Does that woman not understand this isn't 63? Man, I tell you what, how many, fluorocarbons is she releasing in the air every time she lacquers that baby into place? We just got done with James what's his name? No. Who's the other helmet hair? Well, any Christian televangelist has got helmet hair. Well, not Osteen, but he's got a monkey suit on anyone. You can tell because the eyes in there are not the ones that belong to that shell. All right? So all the televangelists have helmet hair. I'm not going to go through all of them, Well, who's the one I was thinking of? Baker, whatever the hell that was. Yeah. Praise Jesus and let me bang our secretary a little bit more. How do you describe her? Never mind. So is this 1963? I mean, you're going to come out like with a plastic raincoat and patent leather go-go boots? And that little like hat like Sylvia Lennon wore? With a little button end top, a little brim. I mean, come on, hon. Are you serious? You could get cut on the edge of her hair. You got to be kidding me. And here's somebody who was banging Newt while he was married and knew it. What am I supposed to do here? Respect them? Hold them to some kind of higher what? I made fun of them and I'm a bad guy? Honey, if you were out in the street and they came riding down on you, they'd come riding down on you. Just like they did in the 18th and 17th centuries. It's like they were a kern in the street, just run them over. Oh, and you're a jerk, whoever that was. You're an absolute asshole. Yeah, and you deserve the kind of government you're going to get because you really do want to be a vassal. You really do want to be a peasant. Bent over at the waist, with a little hunchback, trying to get any kind of crumbs you can for the master's table because that's what you deserve. And that's what you're going to get, by the way, all of you. And I look at Mitt Romney, and he, what it is? He's like, is somebody give him some Quaaludes, man. That guy's... I mean, what is wrong with him? He's like a third grader who's trying to ask like crazy, can he get a pass because he's going to piss himself in his seat? Presidential doesn't matter, but it kind of makes things better. There was nobody in our lifetime that was better than JFK. Truman, whatever that was about. Ike, they told Ike, both parties want you to be president because you're a war hero. Ike, you can be here for 8 years, but Ike, whatever you're going to do, don't break anything. Maybe use not the good china, and just don't disturb anything, Ike. And Kennedy, he the man, but Kennedy also knew the deal, and Kennedy also said, okay, the thing we have to love about Kennedy is he got killed because he probably changed his mind. That's the way I'd like to think about it. And Lyndon, forget Lyndon. I mean, that gall darn, it was like Bobby Bowden's. He should have, Lyndon Johnson should have coached the U Texas. It would have been much better for all of us. They had gone, I want you to love me. And then what do we have after that? Oh, did you ever see anybody who thought somebody might find out that he stole something with Nixon? I mean, with that furrowed brow, that kind of like hyperventilation that was going on inside, wondering, will anybody find me out? I'm not a crook. Are you serious? I mean, he was a mess. And we had Gerald Ford, who couldn't walk down a staircase or play a game of golf without falling over something. I mean, looked like a cartoon Frankenstein. Nelson Rockefeller, who was vice president, got caught giving the finger to somebody who was heckling him. Beautiful. Well, what do we do at the trains? Nelson Rockefeller. I mean, and then we get these characters. I mean, Clinton was good too. Wow, I never had sex with that animal. Oh. But again, I mean, at least I could listen to that a little bit. Jimmy. Oh, boy. And forget Daddy Bush. I mean, he was horrible. And George Bush was, it was a mess, wasn't it? And now we got these guys. Mitt Romney. Oh, God. And Newt Gingrich. He looks like a butler, doesn't he? He looks like that silhouette they used of Alfred Hitchcock. And I'm looking at these guys, and Newt couldn't care less. Newt knows whatever's going to happen. If he's supposed to be the candidate, he knows it. He can do whatever he wants. Have you ever seen anybody go up and down in the polls? Oh, now's his candidacy, goes away for 2 weeks. Don't know where the heck he was, don't hear a thing about him. Then one time in November, bang, he goes up and he's right there. Then he goes down. Now he's back up again. Then they bring Santorum in. Where the hell did he come from? And then they bring the other guy, Houseman, whatever his name is, from Utah. Probably the best speaker, great used car salesman. And then he came in and just breezed in for a second. Hi, I finished third in New Hampshire? Well, what do you expect? Okay, bye, I'm gone. What is going on here? And Ron Paul, now let me ask you this and be really truthful. How many of you idiots actually for one moment said, well, Ron's pulling well. Maybe just this. Don't finish the sentence. You're an idiot. Okay? He's part of the problem. Says nice little things, gets sound bites out. And here's what I think is really interesting, too. Like I said, up at these soccer Sallies whose husband's name are Chipper, and Scoop, and Cole. They're all into health and all this stuff, and they're all into the Tea Party, which honestly, their rhetoric is becoming more and more, as a group, fascist. I mean, I will not be surprised sometime during the summer they come out with brown shirts, honest to God. But what cracks me up is, see, they're all for the Tea Party, but they don't realize that the brothers behind it are big into big agra, which is poisoning all of us, and they're also health conscious, as they were in that one group I was in. They never put two and two together that the Tea Party is funded by the people who are poisoning their asses and their kids' asses. That never dawns on them, though. Shut up. I don't want an update now. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they don't put that together. They're really happy over the fact that they found that the Federal Reserve is a private bank, and they think that's the end of it. And, man, they run all over the place. Hey, I know that. Yeah, well, jerk off, do you realize that it goes beyond that? That that's a conduit that goes back to the old world and that you're still paying tribute to Europe? Are you telling that? Oh, shut up. Oh, what are you, conspiracy? I tell you, if I could go back in time, I would just want to go back to that group. If they ever had like an outdoor, picnic, and strangle every one of them. All the big mouths who think they got it, and they laugh at you. And it's like, what are you going to do? Just shake your silly head and walk away. And I heard something the other day. It was so pathetic. Mitt Romney, he had nothing else to say, so all he could do is say this 3 times. He said, we have to fight for America because we love America. And God bless America. And everyone, yay, Kazinga. And I'm like, oh, my God, please shoot me. They're just they're idiots. If they came out with us to go bowling, we would rank on them. Because they're such douchebags. We wedgie them. We tie their shoelaces together. They're jerks. And I'm looking at these people, and and I'm going to make sure that I, do this and I do that. Kazinga. Yeah, so if you thought Ron Paul was the answer, you idiots. Well, let's bring him back in another 4 years. Then he'll only be about 117. What a joke. He's part of the problem. And you don't get it, do you? And I have to laugh, too. With Occupy Wall Street, honestly, see, here's why this doesn't work. You're going to come out with a message that gets pissed off at 1% of the people in America who make like gazillions of dollars. And that's not fair and that's not right. And all people are going to pick up on that is, and especially the Republicans, is that, you're a Bolshevik. You want to put a cap on that kind of stuff, and they're right. And I always said, Let them have the 1%. Just when they start jobs here, they don't go anywhere. That's all I'm asking for. You started jobs here, they are not going anywhere. That's all. They can make as much money as they want. Keep the jobs here. Nope. Instead of looking at that, about the corporate flight of jobs in America, which they dance around, like I said, by saying, well, small business is where it's at. Yeah. All these 100,000 jobs that are created, yeah, they're doing a great job across America. This country, whether we know it or not, is a dumpster fire. That heat you feel, yeah, that's right. Those are the flames. And common sense is out the window. How do we get stupid and not know how to protect our borders? That's impossible. And everybody's scratching their head. Everybody's walking around. Well, how did this happen? Because they let it happen. And everybody's acting like it was some kind of malady that we had no idea what to do about. Oh, we could take care of that. But that's the plan. Camp of the Saints laid it out in 75. I don't care. I'm not talking about him being a racist or anything else. What do you say? Oh, well, the historically prosperous Western countries are going to be overrun by immigrants, third worlders. Okay, that was 75. Bang, it's here. How do you know that? Just lucky, I guess. We all act as if these problems are insoluble, and we don't know how they got here or how they're going to go away. And we have to listen to politicians talk around it because we know they're not going to do anything. And we call this, I don't know, freedom. There is no freedom. It is in your mind. It is a word to which it was affixed certain connotations which do not exist. Whatever freedom you think you have is probably, like I said, got something to do with the length of your leash that was bought by money. I'm not going to get into a whole thing about the Lord, heaven, Jesus, and all that other stuff. But I'll tell you what, if this is the only life you think you got, ain't no sense being good, man. You want to go out there and just be as bad a person as you can and get it all while you can. If this is all there is. And people who don't believe that there's an afterlife, here's what's going to happen. One of the things that's a problem with this anti-NWO thing is there's a whole phalanx that is full of New Agers. And they really are the New World Order, but just on that vein. All right? They're paganists. They're secularists. It's all about now, and a new eon for humankind ain't going to happen. So they're no use at all. And really what happens is when the time comes, if you have nothing in which you believe that makes this life worth living meritoriously, then you should be the biggest Turk you can be. And what's going to happen is these people who are anti-NWO, when they realize that they're up against the wall, they're going to flip and say, anything you want, man. Shall I get on my knees, assume the position, open wide? Definitely. And that's where they're going to be. They are no help. Another thing I heard the other day, this is great. Well, its time has come. Heard an editorial on WCBS out of New York radio. How great it would be now if corporations come in and fund certain functions of schools, which I knew was coming anyway. And that's what's going to happen. So now you're going to have industrial schools. You're going to have corporate schools, and that is the 10th plank of the Communist Manifesto. You're going to have free education for all. See, everybody thinks that was a great thing, but the point was it was never stated anywhere in any documents that were written in this country that there had to be mandatory education. It was thought to be a good idea, and of course it was. And it was done locally. That's how it was handled. The more that it got centralized, regionalized, and then federalized was the propaganda tool, and your children right now are subjected to it, as we were, but not as much as those that came after us. So this whole bit about schooling is not like to make a liberated mind think for itself. It's about industrial schools. And now you got them. And this guy was glowing. He says, oh, it's a win-win situation. Is that right? Now, see, my point is this, and I was a beneficiary of interscholastic sports. Through that, I got a scholarship to go to college, which doesn't make any sense to me. I go to an academic institution because I can hit 330. Okay, fine. I took it, definitely. But the point is, how in the world can any kind of school districts afford sports programs which only are only participated in by a small percentage of the students, and yet take in a tremendously disproportionate amount of money? Why is that part of reading, writing, and arithmetic? Where did that come from? Let the corporations fund the athletic teams. Let that happen. Move that whole thing out if you want that to continue. But I don't understand how in the world you can be scratching for money to buy books. And I understand there's two kinds of budgets. Yeah, I get that. All right, I don't care. The two budgets are broken up and are taking money from the same source, the people. So you don't have money for books, but you have football teams and baseball teams and hockey teams and field hockey teams and all that stuff. Well, that really didn't come with the whole education packet. Something that was kind of unpleasant that's been going on too inside the world of the ones who get it. And I'm saying this, but some of the email exchanges I've seen between whoever these people are who have come around since I last had a more, I guess, in-depth relationship with the I-Man. I really don't like the way they write him. I mean, I want to say I don't like the way they talk to him, the tone of voice, but of course it's all writing. To the point where I said, like, why are you taking this? At this time in your life, I mean, why do you take this? And he said, I said, look, you can't prevent people from saying bad things about you. And what's ironic is the reason why the I-Man got in touch with me was because, so he says, somebody out there said that I was selling his books on Think or Be Eaten and pocketing the money. And I'm like, go take a look at what's on Think or Be Eaten with the Informer. That was there way back when. As soon as we put this stuff up, I wrote a disclaimer saying, I got nothing to do with anything. You want to buy the books, you do it. How could I have made it any plainer? I said to him, or I wrote to him. I didn't think so. Yeah, well, then why did you bother me? Why don't you tell this guy where you're getting your information from? So there you go. I mean, if I-Man's story is true, the only other thing would have been is he might have been using it as an artifice through which to get in touch with me. I don't think so. But the point is, it's like, what asshole said that? Because that is about as big a lie as it could get. I mean, if there's anything, I'm like, please, I got nothing to do with this, but we want to preserve his work. And then I reminded I-Man that I wrote him with a return self-addressed stamped envelope he did not return. With an email, he didn't get in contact with me. I don't care. I'm just saying, all right? But, I mean, they're dogging this guy, and I just think it sucks. But then, anything that's good is going to get corrupted. I mean, that's what I've been talking about from the beginning of this whole show. That's the way it goes. That's life. That comes with the flesh. That's what people do. And Bill Johnson from The Watchman emailed me the other day and said, you were 100% right. He said, there's only about 1% inside the patriot idiots, or about 1% if that of the whole country's population. They get it. The other ones they just think they do. They're popping off. And that's what I'm saying. They think they're going to run this scam and get out of the IRS. Some will, some won't. I never have known how that works or why it does. But I tell you what, they'll pick who they want, and they will crush your life. And I wrote this to somebody else the other day. I said, the I-Man and Montgomery's work was just to confirm the fact that I realized that the whole thing's a matrix. Even freedom is a matrix. Freedom, that's just some people talking, like Henley wrote. We thought we could change the world with words like love and freedom, but we were such a lonely crowd inside the sad cafe. That's what it is. It's just a concept. It doesn't exist now. It didn't exist back then, and it will never exist. It's something that hangs out, and what we do is we try it on, and we feel what we're doing, how we're living is freedom. We call it freedom, wherever that should be. It's relative, but it doesn't exist. You can say, well, yeah, but no, I'm telling you, it doesn't exist. You take that on and you say, well, look, I'm free because I can make you unfree in really quickly. Within a minute, you can become unfree. It doesn't exist. And that's what most of these patriot idiots are caught up with. Even me and the rest of them. What I'm saying is, check yourself. We're not going to get better taxation because taxation was never meant to be better. That's just the way it is. And for those of you who say you understand Jesus Christ, what I'm telling you is that Satan runs the show until the time the plug is pulled on him. He's run these things. He owns the governments. He created banking. He created actual physical money, all through which scams were pulled to this very day. In fact, it got institutionalized. The concept of freedom, he created as it exists on this planet. The freedom that's eternal is the one that the Lord gave you, where if they kill that thing you call a body, they can dent the car, they can pull off the bumpers, but the engine goes on forever. And that's all that matters. This is a blink of an eye. But at any rate, these characters are thinking that they're going to go ahead and now get out of the income tax. Now, like I said, I don't understand why this happened. I don't mock anybody who did it. In fact, I'd say far out. But for those who did get away with it, there's many more who didn't. Some of them got really lucky and they were just told, cut it out, and that was the end of it. Some of them are in jail. And what I've done is I'm going to attach an audio to this Stuff and Things. In a jailhouse interview I did with Eddie Kane, it's spelled K-A-H-N. We would call that Khan. He called it Kane, whatever, all right? He, at that time, was in a county detention facility a couple of counties north from here in Florida. Nobody knows where he is now. Oh, habeas corpus? He never got that. He was involved with counseling Wesley Snipes in the whole IRS thing. They came down heavy on everybody. Snipes was convicted. I guess he did a little time and paid a big fine. He's back out acting. Eddie Kane was in Panama. The FBI came down and illegally kidnapped him, brought him back, and there's been no trial. He had never had his day in court. That's how it goes. They make the rules as they go. They do what they want. I'll get into some other times too when I've seen the sophistry from patriots who are trying to explain themselves out of the Constitution. Well, the Constitution, see, they wrote that at a time. Hey, look, that's the Constitution. That's the law of the land, so they tell me. Don't tell me what it was supposed to be like or what was happening then or that time is gone, all right? We hear all the time about how it's a living document, which means people who want it to make it be anything, make it be anything. It's nothing. It's so elastic it doesn't count, all right? But here's my point. I got an insurance contract, right? Something happens, I look at the contract and someone says, well, we wrote that at a time when da-da-da. No, wait, here's in the print. This is the contract. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was at a time when things happened. I guess we just didn't pull it out. You see my point? Don't give me this shit. They defend the Constitution, went right in your face. It talks about habeas corpus being a privilege. And one last thing about this also, while I'm on it. Colin Cowherd, who I have to give credit to, though, I don't like to. But, in sports talk radio and ESPN, but sometimes he says things. He doesn't even know he says it, I think. I mean, they just bang, they're right. He was talking about something, saying, when something has been established and we know that it's happened, why are we freaking out about it like 6 months later? And it doesn't matter what the example he was what he used. Or he could say this. I'll make this banal example. The New England Patriots have a crummy defense. They stink. We know it. We saw it in the beginning of the season. They're now going to the American Football Conference Championship. And people are like, oh, man, their defense, oh, man. It's like, wait, whoa. It was established. Their defense sucked. It still sucks. What are you getting worked up about? It wasn't good then. It's not good now. They're here. That's great. But why are we freaking out about it? It's been established. Why do we freak out now? And that's another thing that's been going on, and I get sick of it. Because especially some of these websites who state that they're in the know or they're insiders, when it's a slow day in Patriot land, and there's a lot of them because you can't have conspiracies, and I should say the larger thing about conspiracies. When you have conspiracies, you don't get stuff every day. So you rehash stuff. And this spate of email will go around with stuff that's already happened, like, 2 years ago. I mean, it sucked then, it sucks now, but it's 2 years ago, and it's like, woo, it's like it's already been done. Why do we have to revisit this? It's been established. But you know what's happening? And I don't care. You got to admit it, folks. You have to admit it and take a good hard look at yourself. That there is a certain kind of addiction that's occurred now where people like to be in a state of anxiety. They need it. They are just so used to it that they have to have it. If there isn't something to freak out about, they don't know what the hell to do. And that's why I just want to pull away from this stuff. Somebody asked me, what about SOPA, whatever that's going on? I don't care. And I have to say this, I don't care. I think the Internet sucks. For all the good it does, I think it's done much worse, and it's going to be a bigger tool of enslavement. And if they can sucker everybody into the Internet and then start charging for no one thing, forget every other charges for just data or whatever, it's going to become a heavy-duty price, man. And we'll see how many people are in slavery to paying for that because they can't do without their Internet. Me, I don't give a crap. You can toss that thing in the ocean, man. I've looked at it. It's been fun. It's been nice. It is like very much a thing you can get very used to. And it's addictive too. We all know it. But I tell you what, in the time I got left, I want to be outside. I don't want to be inside on the internet. So I don't care. I mean, I shut down wherever you want. But remember, they're not going to do that. All the governments need that because they need to spy on you. They need to know what you're doing. And there'll come a time when you'll be into what they call, lifelong learning, reindoctrination. And it'll be through your computer. And you ain't going anywhere until you fulfill the questionnaire and do it correctly. And then you can go outside and play. You think I'm kidding? And I have to laugh too, you know. When guys like mouth off, I was going to play the simp that's on some other show. I'm not going to do it now. You get the idea. I'll play it some other time. It's just like talking about we have the NWO on the run. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I want to talk to them. Like, how did you do that? How's that actually happening? And the thing is, the NWO has gone over what? They've been forming this thing for centuries. Some would argue over millennia. And the Patriot movement, which isn't organized, has nothing going for itself, is going to kick them in the shin so hard they're going to topple it. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. And I'm going to tell you that I blame it once again. It's going to tell you as a resummation, it's Alex Jones, man, and he is no freaking good. He wanted to be the Grand Poobah. He became the Grand Poobah, not without some help, by the way, and some deep pockets that nobody can identify. All right? He was anti-government. Then he became a Ron Paul supporter, and all of a sudden, oh, yeah, we can vote back in good government. This is our last chance. Well, he lost then. Oh, it's our next best last chance. He's going to lose again. Now what are we going to do? Have this guy come out, fart and dust at, 86? Come on, man. Come on, man. So I blame it right on Alex's doorstep. You want all the plaudits? Well, I'll tell you what. You take it to this way because you're the one that made sure that this thing went nowhere. For how many other people are in this thing? And this is what Bill Johnson was saying. You know, there's like 1% of America gets it, and of the 99% who get it, they don't get it. They're still talking about the Constitution, you idiots, like it's going to help you. You're going back to the ballot box, you've already lost. He's got you voting. And you're going to sit there and wait for the results, you assholes. He's a son of a bitch, and he's going to burn in the fucking dirt room. And he deserves it. So you just keep going, Alex. Go for all you got, baby. Shake it for the world, smartass, because it's only for this time. You are a liar. You are a sycophant. You are an absolute quisling. You are the worst of the worst. And the fact that you get all those followers just makes it even more so, because the majority is never right. And the cold passion for truth hunts in no pack. But I'll tell you, these poor slobs out there need a leader. They're servile. They need to serve somebody. They're dupes, so you dupe them. And that's what we got out there. And you're going to tell me things will change? Watch your own butt. Figure out what you're going to do. Plan it out. Or if you want to, just waste this time and keep listening about how it's going to get better. Because most of you are just going to roll over when it hits. Face it. Just face it. All right? Now, if you all want to play act in the meantime, that's good. That's okay. That's a good idea. One last thing, too. Keep saying one last thing, right? One last thing. One big thing. Nancy Spiderwoman was on NBC again. As anybody knows, I mean, NBC runs the TV world. NBC's got its tentacles into everything. 30 Rock, you know who owns that. So Nancy Spiderwoman, who never met a pharmaceutical she didn't like, comes on and runs this out of her mouth. The reason we have so much cancer now is because everybody's fat. You know, your mothers were never fat. Your mothers were vacuum cleaning with one hand, holding a kid in another. No, my mother was heavy. My mother was heavy. There were a lot of women that were heavy back then. A lot of men that were heavy back then. They didn't die of cancer. But see, Nancy's got that, so that means, okay, everybody who's overweight now, you're going to have cancer and it's your own fault. It doesn't have anything to do with all the Weight Watchers food that's so good for you and is so full of what? Preservatives? Have you ever read those boxes, the ingredients? It's like War and Peace. Oh, but it's good food. No, it's not good food. All they do is give you shit food and they bring the portions down and you eat it. And that's healthy food. No, so Nancy just threw all the blame on you for being fat, not for all the things you eat and breathe and drink and think you're doing the right thing. Attaboy, Nancy, and there's a special place right next to Jones in the dirt room for her. All right. On that note, on that cheery note, you know, I'll drop it off. This is why we don't do too many stuff and things, because you can't handle them. But that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a matrix larger than you even know, larger than the Constitution, larger than the government of the United States, larger than the world. We are dealing with something that was created and is an absolute fiction. Freedom is a fiction. That halcyon time that we are trying to get back to doesn't exist. In the 1890s, they were talking about the 1850s. In the 1850s, they were talking about the 1820s. In the 1820s, they were talking about the 1770s. And, hey, remember how good it was here before we became states? Come on. Admit it. And then consider what you're going to do about it. But you are looking for a red herring, for a snipe, for a mulligan. It doesn't exist. Now, if that's okay and you want to, live your life on that, I understand. But don't ever call it the truth. Until next time, if there is a next time.